Hey, I'm Olivia, and you're listening to Soarin Around WDW. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. This week, we are moving out of the World Showcase and into the rest of the neighborhoods in Epcot, starting with World Nature. And these neighborhoods were renamed a few years ago when they were doing remodeling of the park. And all of this section of the park, all the different worlds that we have left, are pretty changed, have been changed a lot since the initial beginning of Epcot. They've undergone a lot of renovations. The three sections that we have left are World Nature, World Discovery, and World Celebration. So today we're going to start with World Nature. And kicking off this section of the park, the attractions that are in this section start with the Journey of Water inspired by Moana. This is a pretty new attraction. It opened October 16th, 2023, and it's a garden featuring interactive fountains and other water features leading from the Communicore Hall and replaced a lot of Interventions West that used to exist in this area of the park and moves almost down the exit towards the Seas Pavilion. It has a huge topiary of Te Fiti and rock formations of Heihe, Pua, and Moana. And the Journey of Water really explores the water cycle. So it's divided into 7 different segments of the story: the rain, stream, wetland, land, lake, river, ocean, and sky. And the purpose of this is really to talk about how water sustains our world. The attraction is a walk-through attraction, so you don't ride on anything, you walk through at your own pace. And initially previewed 2 different times, once July 25th in 2023 through August 19th, and then again from September 1st to the 22nd, which was exclusively for Walt Disney World cast members. The attraction did have annual DVC and annual pass holder previews a separate time, September 24th to 29th, and then October 1st to the 4th, before it officially opens October 16th of 2023. In 2019, it was announced that this would be coming to Epcot, but then became severely delayed because of COVID-19. And when it came out, people were confused. A lot of people had thought that Moana would be getting some kind of water-based or boat attraction. And rumors had even swirled around that possibly the World Showcase would get a new Polynesian pavilion to host this attraction, as well as a Moana meet and greet area. The attraction itself honestly is fine. I've never seen a wait to walk through the area. Maybe there was one initially when it first opened, but it's never felt overly crowded to me. But we also haven't really done this during the summer. So the first time that we did this attraction actually was with you, Dad. We did it last year in February 2024. So again, a chillier time. It wasn't exactly a hot day. And we walked through. I thought that it was cute. I definitely think for me, it missed the mark of what a really cool water or boat attraction could have been, even with the same Journey of Water theme. And you still could have been educational about water for like the Epcot education purposes. But I really think that it's fine. It could go tomorrow and I'd be fine with it. It's just really not that exciting. The Te Fiti topiary is really cool, and there is a really great picture spot with the Epcot ball back there as well. But I don't know, what did you think about this, Dad, when we walked through it last year?
Well, the only reason I enjoyed it, to be brutally honest, was that my 2 granddaughters seemed to really like it because I know they really like the movie.
Yes.
But other than that, if you call that an attraction, I think
Yeah,
that's a
exactly.
stretch. I know they call it an attraction. I get it, but it's a stretch. I thought it was kind of, I mean, again, it is what it is. But and I saw a lot of little kids, including yours, enjoying it. But yeah, I could leave it right now and never see it again unless I was walking through again with the granddaughters. But yeah, I to call that an attraction, I don't quite understand that, but that's just my thought.
Yeah, our family really loved the first Moana movie. My girls love Moana. The music is amazing. Moana 2 fell a little short for me, but my kids still love it. They loved the music. They want to watch it over and over and over again. So I think the Moana theme is fine. I think the attraction, like you said, is it really even an attraction? It's kind of just like this walk-through thing. It takes up a lot of space, and I just feel like they could have done so much more. And that's kind of how I feel with that entire renovated section near Interventions. I just feel like they took all of that out, which it probably needed to be updated. But what they did with it is just like not hitting the mark. It's just really I don't know. I don't love it. So I definitely don't love this attraction. Is it cute? Sure. Will I walk through it again if I have time? Sure. But it's not something that I really like prioritize. And I think even my kids, like they think it's cool, but it's not one that they're like begging to go back to. That's for sure. And then we move over to the actual land area, the land pavilion, I guess, so to speak, over in Epcot, where Living with the Land is hosted. But before we get to Living with the Land, we're going to talk about Awesome Planet, which a lot of people walk right by and don't even know it's there. This is a theater that is a movie that they show. They've changed it over the years, which we'll talk about. But currently, the show there is Awesome Planet, and this opened January 17th, 2020. It's narrated by Ty Burrell, and the music is done by Stephen Price. It's supposed to blend nature photography with in-theater effects and digital space sequences created by Industrial Light and Magic. And this replaced the movie Circle of Life, an environmental fable with Timon and Pumbaa. That's what I remember going to see there last. I think before that it was something about like symbiosis or something. And I thought the one with Timon and Pumbaa was cute. It's very educational, which again was the original intent of Epcot, if you think about that. But this current one, Awesome Planet, is narrated in the style of this real estate agent who's selling a home and begins with this look at the fiery birth of the planet before exploring different neighborhoods, so to speak, of biomes like the oceans, the deserts, the icy tundras, grasslands, and forests. And after the tour, the narrator brings up that Earth has a lifetime maintenance plan and talks about all these different systems that drive the Earth's weather and ecosystems, as well as the impact of humanity's actions upon them. So they kind of show the impact of climate change and environmental devastation, and the narrator makes a call to action and shows different ways to combat these issues through sustainable practices, ending on an optimistic tone that we can help preserve our planet as long as we work together. They use a lot of scenes actually from other Disney nature films like Earth, Oceans, Wings of Life, Chimpanzee, and Penguins, which are all kind of done with National Geographic and they're on Disney Plus. And there are several solar panels in the shape of Mickey Mouse's head that can be seen in the multi-screen scene. It's about a 10-minute runtime, and the theater itself seats about 100 guests. I have never taken the time to see this new movie because to me, I'm like, I can watch that on Disney Plus or something very similar on Disney Plus. So why do I need to sit in this theater? I'd rather go ride with the Land again, honestly, than sit in this theater and watch this show. But have you seen this, Dad? Have you ever stopped in here since it changed from the Lion King version?
I never have. And it sounds interesting. I'm sure the photography is amazing, but you're right. All that's pretty much available on Disney Plus. And most people, like you said, just walk past it. I think it's on the right hand side when you walk in, right? You go down
Yeah,
around and it's on the right hand side. People, I mean, it's easy to miss. There's a little sign out there, but it's really easy to miss if you don't know it's there. And most people are probably trying to get to Soarin or something, right? So
right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I think it's an area that they could use and do something else with it. I think some of these sit down movies that are educational, like they have to be unique. If they're too similar to other things they have on Disney Plus or elsewhere, people aren't going to stop in and watch it. So I wish they'd go back to the Lion King one, but overall, not something that I'm super interested in seeing, but it's there. And then Living with the Land. So this originally I learned, I did not know this, was called Listen to the Land. And the Living with the Land version opened sometime in 1993. I couldn't find like an exact date of when it switched from Listen to the Land to Living with the Land, but it's a slow-moving boat ride that has a little bit of a dark ride element and then a greenhouse tour. And the dark ride portion of this attraction opens with a scene of this forest in the middle of a thunderstorm. It illustrates how the different forces of the world shape the land and they can seem destructive to us. But then the boat sails through these artificial biomes representing a tropical rainforest, a desert, and then an American prairie. And the biomes feature sound and lighting effects in addition to heat, wind, and mist to kind of simulate actual conditions that you'd be experiencing in these areas. The boats go through a small theater that then illustrates the relationship between us as humans and the environment and the ways that we have been modifying the land to better serve our purposes. The second part of the attraction takes place in the land's quote unquote living laboratory, which showcases ideas about the future of agriculture and different ways that we can cultivate plants that aren't typical, like in the regular soil. So, all of the plants in this section are grown through different methods of hydroponics, and these plants are grown in sand, perlite, coconut coir, and rock wool. There are five distinct areas of the living laboratory. The first is the tropics greenhouse, and that features crops from tropical areas of the world, like different familiar foods such as banana and vanilla, as well as exotic foods like the cleome, Java apple, papaya, pineapple, date palms, jackfruit, and dragon fruit. And then the aquacell section, this focuses more on aquaculture or farm fishing, and it has a lot of different tanks with low density displays and tubes where animals on display include tilapia, sturgeon, paddlefish, catfish, bass, American alligator, and shrimp. And some of the fish that are harvested from this aquacell area are served in the Coral Reef restaurant in the Seas Pavilion. The temperate greenhouse, which used to be called the desert greenhouse, is a greenhouse that features crops from different desert-like climates or temperate climates. The temperate house showcases large crops like the prize winner and gigantic pumpkins, winter melons, pomelo, this 9-pound lemon. Other things include sunflower, beets, turnips, cotton, millet, and casablanca, or I'm sorry, casa banana. And then the next section is the string greenhouse. This used to be called the production greenhouse. This features a lot of high density techniques like nutrient film, and it also shows off vertical growing techniques where plants are grown on special trellises that cause the plants to approximate the shape and structure of trees. So, one of the most famous examples of these trees is the tomato tree, which produced over 32,000 tomatoes in a 16-month period, which is a lot. It was recognized by the Guinness Book of World Records as the most productive tomato plant in the world. And other crops include eggplant, peppers, winged bean lettuce, and snake gourd. The cucumbers and pumpkins are also grown in the shape of Mickey Mouse through the use of special molds. And a lot of the produce grown in the string house is used in the garden grill that is right in that same pavilion, as well as Sunshine Seasons, which are Sunshine Seasons is the quick service restaurant downstairs. Garden Grill is the sit down upstairs, which we'll talk about in just a little bit. And in total, over 30 tons of produce are harvested from the land each year, which is an insane amount of produce for such a small area if you really think about it. The creative greenhouse is the last section, and this is the final greenhouse in the attraction that shows some unusual ideas about the future of agriculture. A lot of the plants in the creative greenhouse are grown via aeroponics, which is this fine mist and nutrients that are sprayed directly onto the roots of the plants, and then they dangle freely in the air so they're not hindered by any growing medium. A lot of the plant's roots in the creative house are enclosed within rotating columns and different A-frame structures, and others are completely exposed to open air, even if that's temporary, so that the entire plant might be viewed by guests on the boat ride. They also have this small exhibit of NASA hydroponic growing units, which were developed for use on extended length space journeys. And crops on display include tomato squash, lettuce, basil, rosemary, cabbage, super dwarf wheat, Swiss chard, marigold, and snapdragons. Additionally, the living with the lab living Additionally, the living laboratory contains the U.S. Department of Agriculture and Research, which is a lab that's within the actual Living with the Land ride, a biotechnology lab, which is attached to the creative greenhouse, and it is like a sterile research environment. So a lot of USDA scientists are on site at the actual land and perform research on crop improvement. They do also produce a product called Mickey's Mini Gardens in the biotechnology lab, which are available for purchase throughout Epcot. Integrated Pest Management Lab is also seen there, which is this entomology lab that raises beneficial insects for the use of the land and all over Walt Disney World property. It's not visible from the boat ride, but is visible during the behind the scenes backstage tour, which we'll talk about. And the insects raised here include tiny wasps and ladybugs. I cannot say that word. And the ride concludes with this lighted collage of people and produce from all over the world, along with a projection of Earth as seen from space and some very loud theme music that a lot of people always post about on social media. So, what do you, before we get into like holiday overlays and the behind the scenes stuff, what do you think about this ride, Dad, and how you kind of move through the different sections? Is there a section that you find the most entertaining or anything that is a favorite part about this attraction?
When we typically go, we typically never miss this. We always go on this thing. What is up with that? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't even like half the stuff they're growing in there.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I know the fussy eater guy here, but I really, and again, we took this, back in what, 96, 97. We first started going to Epcot. We still lived in Michigan with you two when you were real little. And I remember they had a cast member on there. Actually, instead of the recording they have now, they had a cast member. I don't know if you remember that or not, but they would do all the talking. They'd have the spiel, I guess, memorized, and they would memorize and call out and show everything that the recording does now. So I thought that was
Oh,
interesting. They
yeah, I
eliminated
didn't remember that.
they eliminated a few jobs by doing that.
Yeah.
But I do really like the opening when they're going through the diorama scenes there in the beginning.
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, I could go round and round and just see that over and over again. And they've done such a nice job with that. And it kind of takes you back to when the Epcot first opened because this attraction's been around so long. And the other part is just relaxing. I just find it a good place to go to sit down. The lines sometimes can get a little bit long, and I'm sure you've seen it along a few times. But yeah, I really enjoy it. And again, I really like the first part probably more than anything. But we always go on this ride every time we've been there. And I remember taking last time we went last year with you and Maddie. I remember you guys went on Guardians of the Galaxy, and we took the girls on Living with the Land, and they
Yeah.
loved it. They sat in our lap, and we just went around, and it's always there's that memory too of going with them on that also, which was very special for me. So yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it's definitely one that for whatever reason we really enjoy. I like, doing a little garden at home. I think part of that is my, mom's side of the family and their blood. And my grandpa is a big gardener, always has had a big garden. And I think it's just really cool to be able to grow your own stuff. Again, yes, I also don't eat a lot of what we grow or what they grow on the ride, but I do think it's fun to watch. Maddie eats very healthy, so he eats most of what we grow. It is definitely entertaining. It's a nice little slow paced break. When Eiley was little, this was her nap ride at Epcot. We would take her on it and she'd fall asleep listening to them talk about whatever. But we didn't have such luck with Blake last year. She was awake and she just thought it was so interesting. I think we went on that two or three times. Like you guys took it on her on it once, and then I think Doreen and I took the girls on it when you and Regan or you and Maddie were on Soarin. So yeah, it's just one that everyone kind of enjoys, and it's slow paced and relaxing and just
Mhm.
fun, different stuff. And they do neat, different little hidden things. Like I remember one time we were there, they had different princesses, so each little section of the garden had something grown that like looked like something from the princess movies. And then they, for the holidays, they do these holiday overlays during the International Festival of Holidays at Epcot, and they transform it into Living with the Land, the glimmering greenhouses. So the actual portion of the greenhouses, when it's dark at night, they're enhanced with all these different lights and decorations, and the narration is updated to describe how foods produced in the greenhouses are used in holiday celebrations around the world. So the narration is a little different. The lights are beautiful. This is something that I don't remember doing as a kid at Christmas time, but Regan and I did it during our challenge this year. And I think for either it was either closed the year before. I can't remember. Maybe we did do it both years, or maybe it was during the day when we did our challenge the first year. And then this last time it was at night and it was really beautiful, but the line got very long for the holiday overlay. It was almost an hour long if you didn't have Lightning Lane. So that's something to keep in mind as well. But the Living with the Land is an updated version of the first attraction, which I mentioned here in the beginning of talking about this. That was called Listen to the Land. Very little was actually changed between the two versions. And the opening scene, the Symphony of the Seed, provided a stylized look at the growth of a plant and was replaced by that storm scene, which is there now. The biotechnology lab was relocated from the exit tunnel to the creative greenhouse, and the integrated pest management lab is now housed formally in the space that is occupied by currently the biotechnology lab. So they moved the pest management out of view and moved the biotechnology lab into view. And the ride has been updated to use an automated narration, like you said, on each boat instead of the cast member, which provided live narration. But I did not recall the cast members on the boat, but that does make sense to just have it playing instead of having each boat have to have a person kind of talking through everything. Listen to the Land was an original Epcot attraction on October 1st, 1982, and it does say it ended September 27th, 1993. So I'm not sure if it switched over immediately or if there was a little refurb gap, but Living with the Land, it did say everything I read that that opened sometime in 93. So either right after or, in the later months of that year. And the theme song that is called Listen to the Land is no longer used in the attraction, but there is an instrumental version that can be heard in the land's exterior background music loop, as well as the music loop played inside the garden grill. They currently use portions of various other pieces like Rainforest Rhapsody and Dawn of a New Day as music. And Living with the Land has had a few different sponsors over the years. Initially, it was sponsored by Kraft from 1982 to 1992, Nestle from 1993 to 2009, which we'll talk about here in a minute as well, and then Chiquita Brands International from 2011 through present. And the Behind the Seeds tour is actually a really neat tour from what I have heard from a few different people. It's a 1 hour, pretty reasonably priced tour for people who want to learn more about the land and plants, fish, insects, and the innovative agricultural techniques that are being developed and explored in greater depth. The tour is actually offered several times a day. You can book ahead of time, or sometimes you can stop by the desk next to the entrance of Soarin, and they have same day openings on occasion. So if someone that really loves to garden or is really into plants and agriculture, then I know that the tour would really exceed your expectations, no pun intended. You can read more about it in the Backstage Tours Behind the Scenes edition book, but our friends over on the Backlot Tour podcast did this tour recently, and they said even today it's only about $35 a person, which is pretty reasonable. It's about an hour long. I think it's the cheapest quote unquote behind the scenes tour that Disney has to offer. So very, very reasonable price, that's for sure. And then some Easter eggs in this attraction. As you drift past the farm scene, there's a mailbox with the number 82 on it. And of course, this is not random. It's supposed to represent the year that Epcot and the Living with the Land attraction initially opened in 1982. In the desert scene, there's actually these buffalo and prairie dog animatronics. There's over 35 animatronics total in this ride. And those animals were originally intended for use in a never developed attraction in the Magic Kingdom called the Western River Expedition. And that ride was initially going to be placed where Pirates of the Caribbean is instead in Adventureland. And so the animals were taken and stored until they were used in Living with the Land years later. So they decided not to waste them and use them in a different way. The animatronic dog in the farm scene might look familiar, which I think we've talked about in a previous episode, but you see them in Carousel of Progress as well as in the scene in the Pirates of the Caribbean where the dog is holding the keys. And this dog is modeled after Walt Disney's own dog as well that he had in his family. So, same kind of dog that you see in those other two attractions. This ride does have 16 vehicles and two spare boats. It does seat 3 to 5 guests per row and about 5 rows per boat. The wait time usually is close-ish to a walk-on, but during busy season or like hot, hot days, especially during Christmas time with the overlay, we have seen it up to an hour wait. And that's a really long time to wait for this attraction. I don't know that I wait an hour for it, but it is usually a pretty low wait time, 10 minutes, 15 minutes at most of the time. So yeah, some really cool things about this attraction. I think it's one that we, like you said, we always enjoy. Have you ever thought about doing this behind the scenes tour, Dad, or you guys have not done this, right?
I never have done it, but I've seen people out there when we're going by in the boats. You probably have also.
Yeah.
And you're like, what are those people there? And there's a cast member talking to them, and that's the behind the seats tour, I guess. Yeah, I always thought it'd be fun to do. After a while, doing Disney as much as we all did back in the day. Of course, you now, are doing it currently with your family. You start looking for other little things to do that are just different.
Yeah.
And for $35 a person, that's I think that's a pretty good deal. I think at some point I'll probably end up doing that. Doreen and I will do that because we have interest in that also. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it would be a cool one. And from what I've heard, everyone has enjoyed it. So it would be definitely one to add to the list. And then the Seas with Nemo and Friends. This is January 4th, 2007. And this came to the park shortly after, well, actually, not too shortly after, but a few years after the Finding Nemo film came out in 2003. It was previously called The Living Seas, and it is a pavilion and aquarium located in the World Nature section. The pavilion is themed as this ocean exploration base called Sea Base Alpha and has a lot of exhibits devoted to obviously the ocean and the study of the ocean. The building has this aquarium with an attached dark ride and as well as a talk show type attraction called Turtle Talk with Crush and the Coral Reef Restaurant. It is 5.7 US gallons of tank volume, and it is the second largest aquarium in the US and the sixth largest aquarium in the world, which is actually crazy that it still holds this high of a ranking. I think the largest aquarium in the US is in Atlanta, if I'm not mistaken, the Georgia Aquarium there. So this is the second largest. And the Living Seas opened in 1986, but had been planned as part of the park since its opening in 1982. It was rethemed after, like I said, the movie came out from Finding Nemo to this little Nemo clamshell entrance. And the Living Seas lasted from 1986 till 2005. They took about a 2 year break to kind of overhaul it into the Nemo theme. So guests climb aboard the Claymobiles and venture into the sea to join Marlin, Dory, and other characters from Finding Nemo as they search for Nemo who got lost again. They go through the coral reef where they find Marlin looking for Nemo, and farther down they come across Mr. Ray. Dory then joins Marlin in the search, and they come upon some jellyfish. An anglerfish comes out of the darkness and chases them, and guests go deeper down to where the sharks are. And there's a shipwreck, and peeking out from the wreck is Bruce, who's a great white shark, and Chum, a mako shark, trying to coax Nemo out from his hiding spot. Anchor, who is the hammerhead shark, is not included in the ride for whatever reason. There's usually those three sharks in the movie, but they assure him that they are fish are friends and not food. And then the Claymobiles are swept into the EAC, or the East Australian Current, with Nemo, Crush, and Squirt. The current empties into the aquarium where Nemo is reunited with his friends, and they sing the In the Big Blue World song. Even though the ride opened first, the song was adapted from the show at Animal Kingdom, The Finding Nemo the musical. These animated Pixar characters kind of swim in the actual aquarium with real fish, and they use special effects on the glass when the Claymobiles then return to the surface, and you go out and you're able to explore the entire aquarium. This aquarium has a lot of different animals, but they actually have now moved from long-term rehabilitation to short-term rehabilitation. So they have gotten rid of a lot of the animals that they had for a long time. And I think people started to panic a little bit because after everything that happened at SeaWorld years and years ago about keeping these animals in captivity for so long, Disney decided to shift back to their main focus of short-term rehabilitation. So the dolphins that they had in there recently left, the manatees left, but now there are some new ones that have been there to help rehabilitate. They do have some sea turtles left and some sharks, but it is definitely less animals than it used to be, which is sad. Turtle Talk with Crush is the little interactive show. And this also appears in several different Disney theme parks across the world. It first opened at the Living Seas Pavilion here at Epcot, and then went to Disney California Adventure, as well as Hong Kong Disneyland in 2008. and then Tokyo Disney Sea in 2009. And Disney also collaborated with Pixar on this attraction because there's this improv real-time conversation with Crush and different people in the audience. They have a similar version to this for those of you who have been on a Disney cruise, which I remember very vividly at this restaurant called Animator's Palette in the Disney Dream and the Disney Fantasy cruise ships. And Disney's Turtle Talk with Crush was donated to the hospital, the Bill Holmes Hospital, for by Walt Disney Imagineering during 2013 to entertain child patients and their siblings. And this was the first attraction created by Imagineering to be placed in a non-Disney environment, but still is operating twice a day by cast members. Or it looks like maybe it stopped in 2020. I'm not sure if they've resumed it or not, but also featured advertisement for the new Finding Nemo Voyage submarine tour in 2007 from Disneyland before the ride opened to the public. So children are kind of encouraged to come sit on this carpeted area. The adults kind of sit on the benches behind, and then Crush interacts with kids, and it's a little bit educational, a little bit silly and fun. So this is something I have not done at Epcot, but we did do it on the Disney Cruise Line ship when we went on our cruise back in 2017, I believe. Have you ever done this with Makayla, Dad, this turtle talk with Crush?
We did. We actually did it a couple of times when she was, I don't know, 3, 4 years old. She got a real kick out of it. She loved it.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, it's definitely a Disney Imagineering thing. I mean, it's pretty cool the way they do it, and I'm sure there's a trick that's maybe pretty simple behind the scenes there how they do it, but the kids got a real kick out of it when Crush starts talking to them and asking questions, and it's uh, it's really well done.
Yeah, it reminds me of the trash can guy push a little bit, like
Yes.
how they interacted that way. So it would be
Yeah.
interesting to know kind of how they do it. And then sea base is kind of the main viewing area of the aquarium. The aquarium has the smaller rescued manatees, like we talked about. And then usually there's another tank that has like moray, eel, seahorses, and they're pretty small, like separated tanks. They do not, they, other species that can interact with other divers or fish. So they're kind of kept separate than the bigger aquarium tanks that you think of when you think of an aquarium. This large cylinder shaped tank where guests can view from the center of the exhibit is a pod of three dolphins that used to be there. And then the other three-quarters of the exhibit have, like I said, sharks, different nasotang, butterfly fish, cowtail stingrays, orange line triggerfish, sandbar sharks, bowmouth guitarfish, bonnet head sharks, Atlantic tarpon, shovel-nosed guitarfish, green sea turtles, black-nosed sharks, and a zebra shark. The pavilion does have this backstage VIP room that is used for private events. Like a lot of people have their wedding reception there if they get married at Epcot, as well as different conventions. And the room is pretty long with these curved wood paneled walls. And one side has floor to ceiling windows to kind of see into the aquarium. But the room does also have an acrylic glass see-through piano, which is kind of cool. So that is pretty popular. And that's something that I've seen a lot of videos of people who have their wedding at Disney do their reception there. So yeah, I think the overhaul into Nemo, like changing it to Nemo IP makes sense. I do remember previously when it was the Living Seas, we always used the quote unquote back way sneak in, which I don't know if you can do anymore, but it used to be like you would have to get re-regulated to the surface. You have to go on these quote unquote elevators that weren't really elevators, and they pretend like they're bringing you back up to the surface before you exit. And we would always kind of sneak in the back way that way. I don't know if you still can or if they watch that a little closer, but if you didn't want to wait in line to get in, that's how we used to go in there, the back door entrance. And now the queue for this attraction is insanely long for a very typically short wait. It's almost always a walk on. If there's an actual line for this ride, it's probably not worth it, depending on if you have small kids and you're just trying to like burn some time. And the aquarium is really cool. I think they used to have all these like behind the scenes like diving experiences with the dolphins that are now all gone. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how long this holds up. It's a huge amount of space just to have maybe a couple of manatees and sharks and turtles. I don't know. What do you think overall about this attraction, Dad? And do you feel like it's something they'll keep, or do you think they might move away from it?
I think they'll keep it. I think they've got a lot of money invested in that, and maybe they'll add more, fish, exotic fish. Again, I loved when the dolphins were there and watching them swim around because you just don't get close to something like that, every day, right? It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the scuba divers even diving through there and swimming by, which was super cool. Being an old scuba diver when I was a kid, the whole thing changed over to the Nemo Finding Nemo thing. It makes perfect sense because it was a little boring. I kind of enjoyed the old way only because it reminded me of some of my Johnny Quest episodes back in the day.
Yeah.
I won't go down that rabbit hole, but the sea base alpha and all that stuff, um, but yeah, and I remember going in the back doors. I think I read that somewhere. I think in some book or maybe online back when the internet was pretty new in the early 2000s that you could just if you wanted to skip the line and not go through the boring ride at the time. It was pretty boring, right? It was just just riding through the come through the
Yeah.
back doors and you'd save a lot of time, and we did that actually quite often. So, and no one seemed to really care. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I like it. I mean, I go, but is it something I do every time now that was just my wife and I? No. But if you're with little kids or something that love to see that, yeah, I would definitely check it out.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. So the last attraction that we have to cover is Soarin', obviously our namesake attraction. And this attraction actually first opened over in California as Soarin' over California, February 8th, 2001. It didn't come to Epcot until oh no, I'm sorry, May 5th, 2005. And was there as Soarin' over California before switching to Soarin' Around the World June 17th, 2016. And then it kind of switched between the two back and forth. It's been soaring around the world here for a little bit. And in California, it also goes back and forth between the two. And this attraction is, I remember when they got rid of Food Rocks and we were devastated. And we're like, what could they possibly put in this space that's going to match Food Rocks, which is so funny now. Like, Soarin' is such an amazing ride. It is funny, the technology in Soarin', I feel like the video is getting a little hazy and the screens need probably a refurbishment, but it's still really, really cool. It's one of my favorite rides. And it is this motion simulator attraction that is seen around the world, not just California and in Disney World, but it's also at Shanghai Disneyland as well as Tokyo Disney Sea. It has this mechanical lift system, which is projected on and it has a projected movie onto this 80-foot concave 180-degree dome screen and sprays different scents and wind to kind of simulate this gliding over flight in six of the world's continents. And many consider it the first quote unquote flying theater. So when it first came to California, it was an opening day attraction over at Disney's California Adventure in 2001, and it took guests over different locations in California that had this pre-show about the history of California's aviation industry. Then it was installed over at Epcot, and they still presented it as the California version, but the current global version of the ride actually debuted first in the Shanghai Disneyland park and it was at the time called Soaring Over the Horizon. That came to the Disneyland park June 16th, 2016. And the American versions were also replaced with Soarin' Around the World the next day on June 17th. The fourth attraction was made for Tokyo Disney Sea, and it is called Soaring Fantastic Flight that opened July 23rd, 2019. And after they didn't really have a lot of great feedback from that one in particular, they moved it back to Soarin' over California at California annually as part of the Food and Wine Festival during the spring season. So they kind of rotate through depending on what's going on. They'll have the other movie that's shown, and that's something that they can do easily because it's made for the same screen and everything like that. But in 1996, they actually had this idea for a very similar attraction called Ultra Flight, which is a name that can still be seen on the tower consoles of the California attraction if you ever noticed that there. It was supposed to feature this Omnimax screen with this inverted track that allowed guests to actually fly over California's landmarks. It was going to have three different levels with this system on this cable, kind of like a dry cleaner's rack, is what they described it as. But then they decided that it was too expensive. And so they got rid of that idea. And the Soarin' ride wouldn't actually become a reality until one of the Disney engineers, Mark Sumner, developed a different idea for the ride vehicles using this erector set to kind of string and create a working model of the attraction, which is incredible. So each ride vehicle has three rows of seats. There's a capacity of 87 guests. And once you buckle up, they kind of lift up. And so you really want to be in the top, the front row, I think, or wait. Yeah, the front row, because that goes all the way to the top. If you're in the middle or the bottom, you're going to see people's feet in your view, dangling around, sometimes with no shoes, just like gross bare feet in your view. But the vehicle is lifted forward so that you kind of look and it kind of shifts back and forth so it feels like you're flying. And the original film scenes were shot in this IMAX HD rate of 48 frames per second, which was twice the conventional rate of regular films. Um, the ride structure actually contains about 1 million pounds of steel, and 37 tons are lifted during each ride cycle, which is really impressive, especially if you think about how long ago this opened. To enhance the actual illusion of flying, again, you move just a little bit that are synchronized to the motion of the film. And they also have these vertical carriage movements in turning of the image with the screen. The scents that complement the scenes are injected, as well as air streams blowing on the riders. And initially, when it first opened in California, the scent was only present during the Redwood Creek scene as well as the Orange Farm scene. But then when they updated the show, they included things like rose blossoms in the Taj Mahal scene, grass in the Africa scene, and then sea breeze scent in the South Pacific scene. So the world version does have more scents, but the California Orange Grove scent is a very popular one that people like to buy in Disney like themed candles after this Soarin' attraction from Soarin' over California. So yeah, this attraction is extremely popular. I think it is just, one that you can go on a bunch, but it still amazes you. Eiley got to go for the first time last year when you guys were here, and she actually went twice, once with you and Maddie and once with me and Doreen, and it's just really cool. I think as a little kid, it's just something that you never even dream of experiencing. But tell me a little bit about when you remember them announcing this, Dad, and getting rid of Food Rocks and bringing in Soarin', like what your thoughts were.
Well, we love food rocks. I know comparing the two is like apples and watermelon, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
totally opposite. We just had fond memories of it because we were young and we were, we liked the music and all that. But Soren's great. It's another one I never miss going on it. The updated movie and version of it, I like it, but for some reason, the Soarin' over California one, I'll probably always like more. Yeah, and I remember sitting on the first row so we don't have somebody's feet dangling. And a lot of times you saw bare feet because if you were wearing flip-flops, you want to take them off because if they drop, they're going all the way down to the bottom of the movie
Yeah.
theater, which is way down there. You might not get them back. So they always had them put your shoes, in the little netting basket there underneath your seat. But no, I have fond memories. I love it. And again, when we're at Epcot, we always catch this. I also thought it was interesting. The queue line, it seems like it goes on forever. It's real big
Yeah.
and wide. It goes on and on. If you don't, do the fast pass thing or lightning lane, whatever they call it, it can be a long wait. I know they had some trivia. I don't know if they still do the trivia
Yeah, they do.
on the wall as you're going through the queue to kind of do they to entertain you. So, but yeah, I think it's great. We never miss it.
Yeah, yeah, they do still do the trivia. That helps a little bit with the wait, but it can get very long. This is when we almost always try to lightning lane or do right away in the morning because it can be a very long wait. We have on very few occasions seen a single rider line for this. It actually happened to Regan and I in one of the
Hmm.
challenges, but not very often. It just kind of depends on the park day and what they're expecting. If they're having a lot of larger parties, sometimes they'll put in that single rider attraction line. But yeah, not very often have we seen that. And yeah, so I think overall, I really enjoy this ride. I think it's one of my favorites for sure at Epcot, and it just really has withstood the test of time for me. It's one that we try to never miss, and especially now that the kids are getting tall enough to ride it. And then talking about dining in these sections, so there are a few restaurants throughout this area of the park. The first is Sunshine Seasons, which actually opened with the park in this land pavilion on October 1st, 1982. And this is a breakfast as well as lunch and dinner quick service area. The breakfast kind of serves basic things like pastries, parfaits, and cereals from $5 to $11. The lunch is oak grilled salmon, roasted chicken, stir-fried shrimp, cheese or pepperoni pizza rolls, burrito tacos, and Mediterranean vegetable sandwiches from $10 to $14. And they do have just a grab and go section of like salads and wraps, like $11 to $14. They have some specialty drinks like this milkshake that kind of rotates seasonally and a tropical boba juice. This is actually one of the sit down restaurants that I consider a quote unquote healthier option that I actually enjoy. So the roasted chicken with like the green beans and mashed potatoes are almost as good as Garden Grill. It was really good the last time that I went there with Gretchen last year. We stopped and got food here. She got the salmon, I got the chicken, and we were really impressed for the price. It's not too expensive. It comes with the sides, and it's like a really easy, lots of table space area in the air conditioning in Epcot to eat. So definitely one of my favorite quick service places in Epcot to grab something quickly. I really enjoyed it. I thought that it was good. Have you eaten in this little quick service place, Dad?
Many times. Yeah, we always like to go in there. You go in there, cool off. Uh, Maybe you're waiting for, to get on Soarin or whatever, but we've gone in there and eaten many times, kind of go off. And there's a lot of eating areas. So there's a lot of different places you kind of go off to the side and you're not alone, but you feel like you can get out of the crowd a little bit. And that's what we liked. But yeah, we've eaten here many times, and because it's like you said, it's inexpensive, it's quick, and there's actually a place to sit down, which is not true of a lot of the places in Disney. Once you get some food at a quick service, you can't find any place to sit sometimes. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, exactly. And then the Chippendale Harvest Feast at Garden Grill Restaurant. This restaurant was an original as well, October 1st, 1982, and it was previously known as the Good Turn Restaurant. And then after that, the Land Grill Room, before it changed to what it is today and what it's been for a long time, which is the Garden Grill. The restaurant actually rotates very slowly, and guests are able to view the show scenes of the dark ride portions of Listen to the Land or Living with the Land Now, the boat ride. And like many other restaurants within Epcot, a lot of the food that is served is actually grown there in the pavilion's own greenhouses. And currently, the restaurant hosts character dining experience, which it has pretty much the entire time that it's been the Garden Grill. And it's Chippendale's Harvest Feast. So Chip and Dale are there with Farmer Mickey and Pluto. And I think Goofy, I'm pretty sure, wasn't Goofy there too, Dad? I'm pretty sure. And this
I think
was,
so. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's what I thought. And originally it was sponsored by, again, Kraft from 1982 to 1992, then Nestle from 1993 to 2009, and then now currently sponsored by Smuckers. So they are the current sponsor of Garden Grill. The breakfast is $39 for kids, $49 for adults, and this is a pretty typical Disney breakfast buffet with the characters. I wouldn't necessarily choose breakfast here because you could do the typical breakfast buffet at any of the other character dining restaurants. The lunch and dinner of this restaurant is one of my favorite character and dining experiences throughout all the Disney parks. It's very similar to me of Liberty Tree. It's not quite as good as Liberty Tree, but the food is
Nice.
pretty close. So the cost is $42 per child, $62 per adult, and they serve cornbread with honey butter, harvest-inspired garden salad, which has like tomatoes, olives, garden peppers, croutons, carrots, and celery, They do have a farmhouse ranch for the dressing. They have backyard grilled steak with chimichurri sauce, rotisserie roasted turkey with pan gravy, home-style mashed potatoes, farm fresh green beans, seasonal vegetable medley, macaroni and cheese, and then for dessert, strawberry shortcake with whipped cream, and for the kids, a Farmer Mickey cupcake that has basically chocolate cake with frosting and cookies and cream crumbs. And it is all you can eat. It's family style. So they bring out everything unless somebody has an allergy, and then they rotate through more if you want it. It's one that you need to come hungry because it's a lot of food and it's really good. I think the problem with our family is we always think we're going to eat a lot and then we get full like so fast, but it is delicious. I mean, the food is so good, and it's nice that if your kids only eat mac and cheese, they'll bring more mac and cheese or whatever. But my kids really enjoyed this food. They really thought, that it was good, and we did too. So I love the aspect of the characters. They always stop around to your table, all of them at least once, sometimes twice. We got lucky and got to see Mickey twice last year. And I think that's like the most magical experience for the kids. I mean, Eiley was just like enamored, and so was Blake, even though she was pretty little last year. She wasn't even 2 yet, but she was just so in love with him. And so him getting to stop by, she just like couldn't believe that Mickey came by twice. It was really, really cute. And Mickey kind of danced with Eiley and spent some time at our table. We did pictures, we did our autographs on our frame. So, yeah, I really love this one. What did you think about it last year when we were there, Dad?
I thought it was awesome. Probably one of the best dining experiences I've had, only probably because I was with, you and Maddie and the girls and my wife. It was just really special. But I love it. I went on this with you and your mom and I took you guys on this when you were real small. I remember going to this. That's the only time I've only been on this or eaten here twice.
Oh, really?
And the first time I wasn't real impressed. Yeah, I wasn't real impressed. But this time, I don't know what it was. I don't know. Again, might have been just a situation, but the food was amazing. I ate a lot, and I could have probably eaten more. Glad I did because I went on Guardians of the Galaxy right after.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, it was really the characters were so attentive, and I know they normally are, but they seem to be overly so with you and the kids, and the kids just got a real thrill out of it. So as a grandfather, seeing all that going on with you there and the grandkids was really awesome. So we had a wonderful time. So it's been a while since we've been to Epcot, probably pre-COVID. Since we've been to Epcot, it's been a long time. The experience that was wonderful, and yeah, I think it's well worth the money that you spend. But go, like you said, go there hungry, much like Liberty Tree Tavern. Go there hungry.
Yeah, yeah, this is a restaurant that I remember going as a kid, and then I went again for mom's birthday one year when I was in like college, and then Maddie and I actually went here when we were annual pass holders as one of our last trips to Disney before we moved to North Carolina. We went on a date here, and Maddie was like, "Wow, this food is really, really good." We had a great experience. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I was excited to go back. It's definitely a favorite for sure, especially like you said, while the kids are so little and characters are such a big deal. I think that's what makes it so special for sure. And then the last restaurant in this section is the Coral Reef Restaurant. This opened January 15th, 1986, and this is a themed seafood restaurant in the Seas Pavilion. One of the entire walls of the restaurant is a glass window that's 8 inches thick and provides a view directly into the aquarium. So while guests eat, they're able to watch different tarpons, sharks, sea turtles, stingrays, and groupers. And sometimes you can see the scuba divers going through the aquarium. There's an artist named Kim Minichiello that painted the underwater scene that appears on the restaurant's menu covers. And Ron Douglas's cookbook, America's Most Wanted Recipes, Just Desserts, includes two dishes from the Coral Reef restaurant, which is the Bailey's and Jack Daniel's mousse and the chocolate wave cake. They do have lunch and dinner availability, but it's the same menu for both. And appetizers are things like lobster bisque, coconut fried shrimp, and chicken wings, which are like 12 to $18 each. Entrees include things like shrimp fettuccine, seafood boil, surf and turf, grilled snapper, mojo chicken, and these things range from like 28 to $45. They do have desserts like the Key West Sunset, which is like a key lime tart. They have chocolate mousse and then pineapple coconut bread pudding for $10 each. They have a huge drink menu, and some of the drink menu includes things like rum runners, Coral Rita, pina coladas, and more. And this is a restaurant that I remember, I believe that on Full House, Danny Tanner takes Vicky, his girlfriend, there on the Disney episode. And so I remember seeing it as a kid and being like, this is so cool. But as an adult, I'm like, this is a lot of fish. I'm allergic to fish and it's expensive. So we've never eaten here, but it sounds very cool. But you have eaten here, right, Dad? Have you been in here or no?
Yes, I took Doreen there when we were first married because she loves seafood, and I just wanted to check it out. It's another Disney thing. It's like I want to see what this I see on TV or whatever. But yeah, it's awesome. They're all the fish are swimming by, and I think there actually was a scuba diver, and I remember seeing some sea turtles, and we were right there on the edge where our table was, which was awesome. I'm not a big, seafood guy. I'm allergic to shellfish, unfortunately. So, yeah, I probably went to the seafood place and had chicken, like I do
Yeah.
most of the time. But yeah, I think it's very well done. It's because of all that, it's a pricey restaurant, of course. It's Disney, but I know my wife really liked it. The food was really good. We had a great time there. It was neat to finally see it after hearing about it and seeing in pictures, for a number of years. So. Would I go back? I don't see why I would go back. It's not like I'd much rather go back to Liberty Tree or the Garden Grill restaurant. That's just definitely more down my alley. So, but it was good.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. And then the characters, there's only one in this section officially. Moana is the only one listed for this section of the park. And we did do this meet and greet last year when we went. We waited in about a 20-minute line, maybe 15 to 20-minute line for Moana. Again, my kids are Moana obsessed, so it was like a pretty big deal for them to meet her. And I remember Eiley just like not even knowing what to say. She was so like dumbfounded by seeing Moana in person. And so, yeah, it was a cute little meet and greet. It's outside. The line can get pretty long and they cut it off after a certain point and they rotate through like, every hour or half hour or something. She comes out for a portion of the day. But that's the only official character. The other thing I wanted to mention that is no longer, but was something we did a lot, was when Nestle used to sponsor the pavilion, the land pavilion. They used to have kind of in a section of where that Seasons restaurant is, they had this Nestle cookie baking class. And we have a lot of pictures of this. I'll have to put it up as our throwback picture this week. But
Mhm.
it was basically where you got to go and bake cookies. You get to mix everything together. You make your cookies on your cookie sheet, and then they magically bring out these perfect looking Nestle cookies that are clearly not the ones that these kids just spit in and made. But do you remember us doing this, Dad, and like getting the little chef hats and everything?
I remember it very well. Had the chef hats, and of course, I love chocolate chip cookies. So I'm like, I'm in for this one. So let's make some cookies. Yeah, yeah. We were real good at finding all these little special things that Disney did. I don't think there was any cost to it or anything, if I remember right. I just had to sign up for it. I believe so.
Yeah, I think so too. I think you had to get in. They did maybe like four or five of them a day, and you just had to get there early enough to like be in the line or whatever. I don't think it cost anything either, which is pretty impressive. I mean, the cookies were like big, regular Nestle huge cookies. Like they were pretty
Yeah.
good.
Yep.
So it was a fun experience, and I have some fun pictures of Regan and I doing that. But I don't know. I'm sure that only lasted as long as the sponsorship was there. Like I said, when Nestle sponsored, that was from 1993 to 2009. So I think after that, they probably got rid of it. But we were there a lot in the early 2000s. So it was kind of like prime time for stuff like that. But yeah, that was a cool experience that I just had to mention on the side as a pretty good memory about this section in the land pavilion of the park. Is there anything else that you have to add about this section of the park or anything, Dad?
I'm just saying, I think Smucker's is a sponsor now. Maybe you guys go in there and make jelly or something.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know.
Make
But
some peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Maddie wouldn't
you,
mind
you
that.
never know, right?
He eats one
Yeah,
every day.
exactly. I love this section of the park. I always check it out. The aquarium is amazing. I think it was the biggest one in the United States until the Atlanta Aquarium came into play. For the longest time, it was the biggest one in the United States. And just that alone, I thought was pretty impressive. I never missed just at least going into those areas and always enjoy them. And the land area for me is probably on that side of the park is the one I never miss because of course, Soarin' and living with the land and the seasoned food court too. And if again, after going to the Garden Grill with you so many years later and having such a wonderful experience, I'm sure that's something we'll definitely go and check out again in the near future. That was wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, cool. So for today's old versus new, I just changed it up a little bit. It is going to be, what do you prefer, soaring around California or soaring around the world? So you talked about this a little bit. So your preference is California out of the two, is that right? And I guess explain a little bit more as to why you prefer that one.
I like it more, and I think only because there's the memories of going with all of you when you were little. But beyond that, I thought the new one, if you weren't sitting like right in the middle, it was a little distorted if
Yeah.
you're way out on the edge. And I
Mm-hmm.
thought that was kind of a bummer, and I kind of ruined the experience a little bit. So that's probably the big reason. I think the projection quality, or however they filmed the first one, was it's just a better experience. So that's why I like the older one better.
Yeah, I think that I also like California better, and the reason being is the distortion is definitely true, but I love the orange groves. I love that scent. And so I think that's just like one of my favorite parts of the entire thing. And I love the scene at the end when you're going over Disneyland. I know in the world one, you go over Epcot and you see the Epcot ball, but I think going over Disneyland is just really neat. I don't know, for whatever reason, that's just always been one of my favorite parts. And California is such a beautiful state, so I love the scenery too. But both of them are cool. I never mind seeing either one, but I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing the California version when we're in California. We'll see. And then for our trivia this week, the question is, what was the name of the robotic host in the Communicore? Was it ORAC ORAC 5, R3X, AIX9, or SMRT like Smart 1? I don't know.
I have no idea because I never saw that. That was the early Epcot years. We didn't even get there till 1996. So I'll just say the last one because I have no idea.
SMRT 1. I'm going to say ORAC 5. No. It is, Dad. You're right. SMRT 1.
Well, that was just a wild guess on that one.
That's funny. Okay, good. Well, there you go. Well,
Yeah, that was
that is the world nature section of Epcot. So next week we will keep on moving through this park and go into World Discovery, which has some of the most intense rides in the entire park. So I'm excited to get into that section. But thanks so much, guys, for listening, and we will see you next week.
see you next week.
Hey, thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to give us a follow on Instagram at Soarin Around WDW Pod, where we share fun reels, throwback photos, and dive into our old versus new debates. If you're listening on YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. And for our Spotify listeners, a follow and a 5-star review would mean the world. If you're listening on Apple, hit that 5-star button and leave us a written review as well. Thanks again for joining us. See you next time.